the church, right? Come up closer. And this will be a dialogue between us and you, okay? So you're gonna have to tell us who you represent, what your name is, and I'm gonna be looking for media badges because we already threw some people out. We've already escorted people out of the compound because they're in here falsely, and they do represent media organizations, okay? But they got in here falsely. They've been escorted out. So I'm going to ask for your media pass to be shown, okay? And so make sure that you do that, okay? All right? And all right. So we're got a panel up here, just because of experts and stuff, or conversations about things. You know, I mean, Kash Patel, if you guys got any questions about Mar-a-Lago or the Department of Justice or those kinds of things, okay? We all have our opinions and all that sort of stuff, okay? And then anything else about what we're doing, okay? Are we going to have this and share this with is that what you're on? Okay, so because a lot of you, I think, aren't listening to hit this, right?
I'm just going off of my camera.
Okay.
So.
All right, I'll share this with these folks, okay? I'll stand here. Tricia, stand right there. Yeah.
UMC.
Okay. All right. So how I like to do this, I kind of will go from left to right and right to left. I'll pick you, and then again we'll go from there. Okay. You can ask anything you want. Okay. All right. So right here.
James Reawaken America Periscope, for you. Is this like not the best week ever? The FBI credibility destroyed, IRS credibility destroyed, the CDC raised white flag yesterday saying it's over. COVID. Go ahead.
Thanks to General Flynn and Clay for putting this amazing event on. Episode 14, I think, right? It's unbelievable. But it's a great day in the sense that you want American accountability to not just be directed at the people that they were perceived inwards when they failed. It's a sad day, a tragic day, when you find out the levels of corruption that they did, from Russiagate to Ukraine, now to this raid, to the January 6th committee. We can go on. So, it's a win and a loss, and I'd rather not be talking about it at all and saying government's just doing what they're supposed to be doing, like General Flynn did for 33 years. We'll keep doing the accountability work that needs to be done here.
Great. Anybody over here? Questions? Right here. How about right here? You raising your hand?
Oh.
Letitia.
Hey, I didn't have a question yet, but the Attorney General issued a warning about how there would be violence and racial attacks here, and it's been completely peaceful. But about a few minutes away, there was an attack on someone who got stabbed in the eye. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Yes.
You have.
The guy running for governor.
Yeah, I used to work for him.
Lee Zeldin.
Lee Zeldin used to work.
No. I mean this week. His name is
Salman
Rushdie. Salman Rushdie.
Salman Rushdie.
Yes.
Oh, Salman Rushdie.
Yeah.
Stabbed in the eye.
Actually, I think he's still in critical condition.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but there's no Attorney General warning them about violent attacks. Why do you think this event's targeted as a white supremacist, violent, racial uprising?
So because a lot of people don't know Tricia. So introduce yourself, because she's the expert for that.
Attorney Tricia Lindsay. I'm a civil rights and constitutional law attorney, barred in New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Colorado, and Alaska. The reason why the Attorney General wrote that letter is because they're doing what the government has been doing. It's trying to taint the story, twist the narrative, and set us up. But what they're not understanding is the more that they do this, the more that they're showing their hand. For one, they're losing. The government is lying. The Attorney General was out of place and out of line in sending that letter. And the letter did not even make any sense, to be honest with you. In one line, she's saying that people have the right to free speech, to declare, to protest. And in the next sentence, she's saying that be careful what you're doing because and to abide by the laws of New York State. Well, we are abiding by the laws. This is a very peaceful event. Each and every single one of them has been peaceful. There has been no violence connected to it. We have not had any share of disruption in the lives of people. They just don't want the truth to be out there. They have come and have attacked our constitutional rights, and they are trying to direct the narrative. They want to keep people in fear and paralyzed so that they don't get the information. You watch the people say, if I don't watch the news, I don't get the information. What I say is, if you watch the news, you get misinformation. So today is your opportunity to change that narrative, because America has lost hope and faith in our journalists. Mainstream media is no longer respected to the level that they should be, and the way that they were years ago. And so today, you're here, and the charge is given to you to go back and tell the truth. Don't go back and edit these clips, mix it with some other things that you have, and find some people miles away from here that are doing something unseemly, and then try to connect it to this event, because that's not what's happening. We are here representing America because we want America to be great. We want to maintain and to preserve the Constitution. The documents and the rights by which this country was founded on is what we are here fighting to preserve. And in us fighting to preserve that, we're fighting to preserve you, your families, and your rights. So stand with us. Stand with us, because we're here to help you. We are in the forefront. We are on the front lines of this battle. And if you stand with us, you too will be protected. Yes, sir.
Might as well keep the microphone, young lady. Dr. John Diamond Brady on TV with the hiring of, 87,000 IRS agents and all that madness going on. You know who they're targeting, pretty much everybody here. Do you guys have any advice other than violence? We know we don't bow down to the violence, but what else can we do to protect ourselves against this assault that's going to be coming?
We have to hold the line, to be honest with you. We have to be informed. You have to remember, America is a democratic republic. The government answers to us. Do you understand? They answer to us. And what came to me when the Attorney General sent that letter is, she is violating, she's doing what the IRS Act of 1954 was meant to do, and that was separation of church and state. America was never meant to have a separation of church and state, because the church was actually supposed to influence public policy and government, right? The reason why they implemented that law, right, was because they did not want the church. They did not want God in government. They didn't want God in public policy. But that is not possible, because the very Constitution that we have is founded on that. This country was founded on people fleeing religious persecution, right? They were looking for religious freedom. And so every principle that we have in this country is founded on it, so you cannot separate it, right? So we have to disconnect, and I know this will probably not make it, but we have to disconnect from government, right? The church has to regain its sovereignty. People have to understand who they are. The people of America have to understand that we are the people. The Constitution starts like that. Any law that violates human rights violates God's rights. Amen. And violates all people's rights. All right? And that's what it is. And so what we need to do is stand, know our rights, and we need to stand against the government. And anything that we can do to hold on to our rights, any act of compliance is an act of surrender. Mm-hmm. We cannot surrender.
Amen.
So on the 87,000 IRS agents, this is a unfortunate, tragic example of government overcorrection. They take taxpayer dollars and they throw money in a problem that they created and can't solve, and want a fake news headline for it. We throw 90,000 people at it. You know, by the way, I don't know if you read the language. It says they want 90,000 armed IRS agents. We need tax agents armed, barging through our front doors to get our documents and papers. The fear that they've instilled, and she's absolutely right, is that the fake news media is going to run with this and persecute people politically. Thankfully, in November, you have an opportunity to correct that, because not to get into the weeds, but the way the budget works is, even though they passed this law, if the Republicans take the money come November, there won't be 87,000 IRS.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Aaron Lewis. I'm running for governor for the state of Connecticut, but I'm also a senior pastor in West Hartford, Connecticut. One of the things that, and of course, Attorney Lindsay alluded to this, is that the Attorney General was completely out of order to send a letter at all. I've been on most of these, this tour, Reawaken America. We've not had one incident, and this is the 14th time that we convened together. All that we've ever done was meet together so that we could inform the people of what's happening, so that the people, we the people, can protect our interests. So when she actually sent that letter to a pastor, to this region, she entered into sovereign territory. And at this particular point, we're noticing that many people that are AGs, governors, people that are on a high level of prosecution in the federal government, we're seeing it every single week, they are overstepping their boundaries because they believe that they have no line of demarcation. And once we acquiesce to their bidding, then we become subjects of all that they're doing. So she had absolutely zero authority to write the letter. She wrote the letter under the pretense that something was going on. My personal belief is that she wrote that letter because she wanted to make believe something was going on. She wanted to present to the people that something was going on so that she could continue to keep her message going of division. And that's not what we're doing. We see where we are. We see what we are. We see what we look like. We see that we're all one people. We're all together. And we have one common interest. And that common interest is to preserve something that is fastly eroding called the U.S. Constitution. That's the reason why every one of us are here, because we love America. And if loving America is a crime, then guess what? I'm criminal number one.
General Flynn, we are aware that the Reawaken Tour is supposed to come to the conclusion in Pennsylvania in October. Speaking to other speakers and praying to God yesterday, I'm asking you if there's the possibility of having a victory lap to take back the country after November 11th. That weekend is Veterans Day. And if we can have a victory lap in Branson to celebrate we won and end the tour in November on Veterans Day.
You inviting us?
I'm asking you because you're the only one.
I'm taking your invitation.
And then let's do it. I'll get it set up.
Let's do it.
Let's do a victory lap in Branson. Branson, Missouri.
So what you're talking about is what's the purpose of what we're trying to do. And our purpose is really, from my perspective, it's about education. It's about educating and keeping people that feel really exhausted and without faith and without hope, to let them know that we're all in the same boat here together. You know, as we've just been up here talking about, we're all in the same boat together here. You know, either we have a constitution that's viable, we have a country that's viable, we have a rule of law and a legal system that's viable, that works for the people, we have a republic that actually responds to the citizenry of its country, in our case, the United States of America. That's what this is really all about, and you can't help but spend 2 days at these and get an incredible education on a whole range of issues, a whole range of things. You know, you take what you want, believe what you want, and then absorb it, and then go get involved somehow. That's the other aspect of what we're trying to do, is to keep people engaged and to give them ideas about how to be involved in our country. Okay, I'd like to use the phrase, local action has a national impact. So figure out what you want to do at your own little community level, and that's fine. Those of us that have national platforms or state platforms, you know, we're going to do the things that we have, right? I mean, you see Kash Patel out here all the time. You know, he's fighting for this country because here's a guy that served in the Department of Justice, served fighting terrorists, you know, and from the sort of the lawfare and the legal side of things, right, for a decade or more. And then he gets involved in not only our country and within the White House, but he's also involved in our defense of this country, right, in the Department of Defense, and then he gets involved in the Department of National Intelligence. I mean, how can you not learn from somebody like that? I mean, honestly, and so people are going to have impressions about all of us. So I'll take your offer. We've already started to actually talk about the continuation of this. You know, I think that America is awake. So our Reawaken, from our perspective, has been a massive success. We feel very blessed that we have gotten to this point, and we always say, between Clay and myself, this is about our mission, and it's going to be mission over ego, right? Get the egos out the door, out the room, and let's focus on what it is that we're trying to achieve. And for the media that's been here for the last couple, you know, for yesterday and then today, I mean, if you walk away from here and go, okay, I don't get it, I mean, then you're asleep. or you really, I mean, I don't want to call you something else, but I mean, you cannot sit in something like this and go, oh, these are a bunch of, like we were described, okay, coming here. The challenge is that to us, as we understood this from the beginning, we've been described like this from the beginning. And so we overcome this every single place we go, and yet, every place we go, there's still some adversary or some opponent, principally politically, but definitely spiritually. There is something going on. And so, and you know, whatever you want to call it, I'm one of these Irish Catholic kids. I don't normally wear this on my sleeve, you know, but what I do believe is I believe what I see, and I believe what I hear, and I believe what I witness. What I witness is we're really up against a real evil in this country, because they're trying to destroy the fabric of our society, which is built on the foundations of really Judeo-Christian principles and values. And I always tell people, and I've written about it, we should be fearless about those things. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If I stand here and I say, you know, the FBI should be completely reformed, or it needs to be, you know, it needs to be shut to the ground and maybe rebuilt, or maybe not. You know, now the Attorney General might go, that's the guy we're looking for. He is causing. No, that's my freedom to say what I believe. And frankly, from my perspective, I am a subject matter expert in that. Okay, so and not only in our government, but in the activities and the agencies and the departments and the commissions that we have in our government. And I know how they're structured. I know how they're built, and I know how out of control they've gotten. That's what this is all about. So for the media, as we've all been talking about, like I said to yesterday, and I don't even know if the folks are still here, because I'm looking for some of the faces. When we talked to some of the local ABC and I think CBS, I said, if you guys tell the truth, your viewership will go through the roof. It'll go through the roof. So anyway, I'm going to stop. Let me ask Pastor Byrne to say something.
We've got it set up.
Well, no, it happens to be the greatest 4th of July speech in American history was given here in Rochester, New York in 1852 by Frederick Douglass. And there are so many principles in there and things from his speech, from that speech, that need to be said today, that I'm going to be talking today, giving a little talk about Frederick Douglass. I hope it doesn't get me arrested as a white nationalist or something. But I'll be talking about Frederick Douglass, so I hope you make the speech.
One of the things that I wanted to add to what the general was saying, it's very interesting because, even yesterday when he was encouraging the press to be honest, and just tell the truth, to be honest, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who's one of my greatest heroes in the 60s, was on the FBI list as the #1 terrorist in the world. Please go and research that. And then now, you know, years later, he has a stamp, he has a day, and everyone has, 15% off, discounts, on Martin Luther King Day. Everybody's forgotten the fact that the FBI, the government, deemed him as a terrorist for the exact reasons that they're deeming this entire tour as negative. Why? Because they want to be in control of the narrative. One of the most amazing discoveries for all of us is to understand that this government is not supposed to be dictated or run or controlled or lorded over the people. The greatest discovery is that every one of you, we are the people that control our government. We are the ones that makes the dictates. Anyone that tries to tell you that then becomes enemy #1. So I'm here to tell you, regain the we the people. That's what this entire tour is about. The we the people, our Constitution, our America, and all of the lies that they have to say, just let it run off of you like water on a duck's back.
I just wanted to add, we cannot allow the government and the authorities that we, the people, have put in place to break the law, allow them to justify breaking the law. Because every time we allow them to justify when they break the law, they're going to continue to make up reasons for breaking the law, because we've already allowed it. And we have to be very careful with that. And so information and informed citizenry is one that cannot be fooled, it cannot be stopped. And we have to be informed, and that's what this is about. Information. They want to block it. They don't want you to know. They don't want the people to know. And as the press, it is your responsibility to ensure that the people are informed.
Spoken like a constitutional lawyer. Oh, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Renee Rico, citizen journalist from Rochester, New York. As people of faith, what do all of you suggest we do to ensure November and elections beyond are fair and free?
Okay. How do we ensure we have elections beyond that are fair and free? I'm gonna kind of let us all talk. I'm gonna start with Kash.
Thanks so much. So yeah, I'm the national security law enforcement guy. I'm not really the election guy, but what I can tell you is that from Russiagate on through January 6th and now the reign of President Trump's home, I think it's been the biggest civics education in modern American history, and that's a good thing because people have realized that the federal government cannot and should never dictate how our elections have run. But what is important is that statewide offices, state secretaries of state, state attorney generals, these are the people that need to be elected who believe in our values of a free and fair election. And that's the biggest message that I've seen across this country finally get out. You cannot look to Washington to fix our federal election system. It is not up to them by law. It is up to our states. And I hope you guys carry that message throughout wherever you are and put the right people in local and state offices. That's how you get free and fair elections.
Yep, and I'll just add that states' sovereign rights, especially when it comes to our elections, is paramount. And that is actually what drives the legalities, the constitutionalities for our election system. I mean, if we don't have free and fair elections in this country, nobody, and a lot of Americans don't trust it. They just don't, you know, you keep seeing these polls, and some of the better polling organizations, you know, Rasmussen is one of them. 83. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's still the number one issue. It's like 83% of the country don't trust our election system. The thing for everybody is that the people of this country, we pay for our election system. So whether it's mail-in ballots or machines, we are paying for those things. That is our property. It's handled by the government and government components of our counties and states, but we actually own it. It's a taxpayer-funded program. So for anybody to say you can't look here, nothing to see here, and they're hiding it, that's why it's 83% people don't trust our election system. So, I mean, we're going to have to have fundamental reform, but as Kash says, it's going to have to be by the states.
Because first and foremost, in being a cleric, we got to pray, and we got to keep praying and keep praying and keep praying, because prayer does absolutely change things. And so that's something that's going to be in the forefront. But one of the things that I'm actually noticing on the campaign trail that definitely needs to turn around is that I'm a conservative, and I'm a diehard conservative. But here's the deal, is that when you find in your states that people who are claiming, let's just say to be Republican, are not living out that value, or they're completely on the opposite, angle, then you can't support them, you can't vote for them. You have to understand what it means to vote for your values, even if in your state, your party has been infiltrated. Why vote for the enemy when the enemy shows its face? That's one of the things that I think that is extremely paramount. Put your money behind the candidate that aligns with your value, because right now I know that all across America, even within the Republican Party, there's a lot of infiltration. There's a lot. I've heard people that are extreme far left Democrats saying, well, I'm going to run as a Republican. It's happening all over. So be aware of that, and don't be so locked into the awe. Be locked into what your value is and what somebody's willing to put on the line for you and your family. That's something that's going to be really, really big and pivotal in this upcoming election. And always keep God first.
I'm going to defer to Patrick on this, as he's an expert in this area.
Tricia, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me debunk the debunking. May I impose upon you, Tricia, just to hold something for me? Just to hold. The intellectual debate's over. At the beginning of June, the DHS came out with a report that may as well have just called the Mike Flynn was right report. It's a report that says these machines are total junk. There's 9 major security vulnerabilities, and it's charitable to call them vulnerabilities. These are gaping holes that are unfixable, which the DHS has admitted because there's no patch. Usually when they find software flaws, they identify there's no way to patch this. It's bad to the bone. So the intellectual fight's over. And they no longer say the most secure election in history. They're now saying the election we told you was the most secure election in history was run on equipment that we now acknowledge has 9 massive flaws in it. And all we will say is while these vulnerabilities present risks that should be mitigated as soon as possible, the DHS has no evidence that these vulnerabilities have been exploited in any elections. Well, that's a long way from where they were 18 months ago. So that says it can happen, and the one place that in America the citizens got to examine an election database was in Mesa County, Colorado, thanks to a hero named Tina Peters. Thank you, Brian. Named Tina Peters, the Mesa County recorder whose mission was to safeguard the county data, and is entitled to make a backup of it, made a backup of it. If you don't know the story, she made a backup of the data because she suspected there was going to be a big cover-up. She made the backup, and she had the backup. The state came in and they came in and did a trusted build, which turned out to be they overrode the whole thing, massive federal crime. In fact, I happened to be close friends with the guy in the room who was the cyber guy, and he called me in the middle of it. He's a very cool cat, but he called me in the middle and put him on FaceTime. And he just pretended to be working. He's like, I've never seen anything like this. These people are committing 100,000 federal felonies right behind me. And when you take those images and you compare what they installed with what was there, what you learn is our worst fears have been confirmed. And it's called Mesa County Forensic Report number 3. It not only shows they did a complete smash down of the evidence, which is a massive federal felony, it's the original, the before image, so to speak, when some professors emeritus of computer science decoded it. They discovered that 3 days into the counting of the November 2020 election, 3 days into the counting, there was some cloaked script woke up and created a new illegal database and moved 30,000 votes around and did this and that, covered its tracks. I mean, the worst thing you could possibly imagine has been proven to exist. In the one place we citizens got to examine. I didn't know it was going to be such a crime against humanity for citizens to ask to examine our election systems. But for some reason it is. It's kind of funny, I'll tell you a quick. So the intellectual debate's over. I've lived in communist countries, I've never seen the cover-up like I've seen in the last 18 months. I can't run through all of them, but just to give you an example, in September 27 of last year, Doug Logan, the Maricopa County preliminary report, interim report, what it actually says is there, out of 2.1 million ballots, there's 700,000 that don't have a proper pedigree. And of them, 300 to 400,000 looked fake as hell. Like there's almost no possible explanation for them. But if we count all of that, Biden still wins by 10,000. Of which what the press tells the American people is, well, the Maricopa audit shows that Biden still won by 10,000. That is just such a... Anyways, so since then, believe me, so much has been discovered. We really have essentially all the pieces together. There is no intellectual debate anymore. Our elections are junk. However, in answer to your question, ma'am, it's beatable. It's not hopeless. I'm reminded of those, I used to be a defensive tackle, so I think in those terms when you sack the quarterback and one guy hits low and one guy, your colleague hits high and you see that quarterback flip. That's what we need. We just did it in Arizona. Well, we did it last year in Virginia. We got behind election integrity. And election integrity turns out that, citizens just haven't been showing up. This is supposed to be our systems. 30% of the precincts had observers in Virginia in the past. We took it to 95%, working with Bishop Leon Benjamin, who I hope would be here. Now we've supersized that, Operation Eagle's Wings, taken it to 10 states. It is pure civics 101. The press tries to portray it or as something pernicious or something, I don't know. It's just getting citizens to train as poll watchers and go work as poll watchers. Well, look what just happened in Arizona. 3 candidates, the gubernatorial, the Secretary of State, and the AG, Carrie Lake, Mark Fincham, and Abe Hahnemann, I think, all America First candidates who absolutely, well, they all got through the process. And they become the that's a combination of the groundwork of election integrity, which comes from the citizens, but that's the kind of work the America Project is doing, and it comes from the citizens turning out. That's the 1-2 punch, and it won in Arizona. We won in Michigan. We're not perfectly happy with the results, but. And the other thing to know is what we're discovering, like what we're looking at in Nevada. Nevada is corrupt as can be, and it's the Republicans. It's the Republican establishment I used to say that I think the Democratic establishment's 80% corrupt and the Republican establishment's only 60% corrupt. I'm not sure I even believe that anymore. What we're finding, it's all over the country at the local level. There's corruption all the way through. And why I'm talking about Frederick Douglass is because he kept saying, just like you, I love what you had to say, Tricia, it's about embracing our founding principles. And there's nothing more fundamental to our tradition than consent of the governed. That's the most atomic concept of our tradition. And consent of the governed depends on having elections that do not run on junk systems. These things are so penetrated but the way through is for citizens to get involved, and you get involved right now. It works. It's working. It worked for us last year in Virginia. It just worked in a couple. Get involved in New York. Here's how you do it. There are ways you can, in every state, there are ways you can get involved with your voter registration. There are different such where you can help clean the voter registration rolls. We've learned that to stuff the ballot box, they first have to stuff the voter registration roll. So you can work right now and help. There's perfectly legal, peaceful, civic-minded citizen ways of getting involved in each state. And there's a particularly good one I hear in New York. The name escapes me. Would you happen to know, sir? The name of do you know? What is it? Citizens New York Audit. To clean up the voter rolls, and then on election day, and it takes about 4 hours of training, and you can get the training through America Project or dozens of places. You want to at least be an observer. Even better, you be a worker, which takes a bit more training. But we're talking about 4 hours of training. If you don't, you're getting a karmic message from your great-grandchildren who are saying they will never taste the sweet air of freedom that you've enjoyed all your life. If you cannot right now and for the next 13 weeks, get involved. We're not asking much. Do some volunteer work with the voter rolls and get involved as an election worker. We have shown in Arizona and in Michigan and in other places, it actually works. If you do that and you hit them high, they might be able to cheat 5%, 10%. We still think they cheated 10% in Arizona, but it would have been 20% if we hadn't done what we did. So we can beat them, but this is your last chance.
We're going to go over here. One question here. We'll take one more after this one. Give us some hard questions.
Yes, sir. My name's Mickey Shelton with Justice Uncensored. You'd actually wrote an article about me a while back. I'm Captain Mickey Shelton, but I'm here on my own opinion and not of the military's. I'm fighting the vaccine mandate in the Guard back home with the governor. What's your advice to leaders who's idly standing by and allowing their soldiers to get injured, having heart issues, not getting paid, losing benefits, people who's been on combat deployments and has spilt their blood for this country and fought for those rights? What advice can you give to them, or what do you think they should do, or where do we go from here?
Yeah, I think that the military leadership at the very senior levels, we have to look at, they have to be very smart about this, because they've got to follow the judicial side of our government. And if judges are putting in injunctions and stopping, I mean, we have a real big problem in the National Guard right now. A huge problem in the National Guard. I don't have my numbers exact, but I would say half the National Guard is not vaccinated, right? And I believe rightly so. There is cases in the Navy, there's cases in the United States Air Force, active service, active components, and judges are making decisions, and yet leaders are still imposing this notion that, no, you got to take the vaccine. I mean, in the military, one of the things that you learn from the beginning, whether you're a young enlisted kid or you're a young officer is a order, legal, ethical, or moral. Legal, ethical, or moral. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. But legal, ethical, or moral. And if they're not one of those, okay, then you don't have to follow it. It may come with a consequence, and the consequence might be like we've seen. When somebody says, I'm going to put in a religious exemption, you know, for a vaccine, and some leader says, no, it's tough, we're not going to, I mean, not many religious exemptions have actually been adhered to. And I know that there's a lot of, I mean, we have a chaplain in every battalion and every squadron in the military, across our military, to include in all of our National Guard units. Why? Because we are a very religious, I mean, no, there's no atheists in a foxhole, right? So you understand this. So, I mean, I think what people have to do is they have to make individual choices. And when you're in the military, you are under a different code. You're under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is different, but you still have a decision to make, and it's going to come with a consequence. And I pray, I hope, you know, that we see a shift, just like we've been talking about with voting. Get out and vote and change, right? Change people that are in there. And I hope that we have stronger leaders that go in there that push back on something that is not a approved vaccine. It's an emergency action, right? And we know now. I mean, the CDC's just come out with new information. I mean, it's just incredible. We know now how much damage it's doing, to include killing people. So what I worry about is the readiness of our forces, the readiness of the military. You know, are they trained and ready to go to war, ready to fight and win? That's what I worry about. That's it. We don't have a military for social experiments. And we have a military for the one time, but we have a military, and Kash knows this. I'm going to let him answer this here in a second too. We have a military that should be, I mean, they should be trained and ready, and they should be able to fight and win our nation's wars, okay? Not fight and participate, and I've written articles about this. You can go back and look up online the things that I've said about how we've been fighting since the end of World War II. We participate in wars. Wars are not meant to be a participatory exercise. They're meant to be, it's a very dangerous thing. When we go to war, when we go into a conflict, we have to fight and win, and not participate for 20 years and then surrender to the, in this case, Afghanistan, to the Taliban, right? So let me stop here. I'm on my.
He's the best guy. Totally right. Look, when I was Chief of Staff of the Department of Defense, yes, President Trump, gave us Operation Warp Speed, and the key there was it was an option. But we have to make it available as an option to the American people, and I'm proud that we did that under the Trump administration. But where I disagree with what's going on now is what's happening to you and a lot of my former colleagues in the military. And I think the biggest way to get back at it is we need courageous guys like you to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to take this just because I signed up to serve you. That's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to collect every brave warrior who's been adversely affected by this decision and do what Donald Trump said on the campaign trail, which is we're going to reinstate every one of you. I will work for that tirelessly because that is critical. Mike's right. The Department of Defense's mission is a no-fail mission, which is what I was saying last night. And we cannot have our heroes and warriors sidelined because they have religious beliefs and convictions or medical opinions that differ with the people who are politicizing our national security apparatus. We cannot have that. My mission on these tours, actually, Mike and they have given me a new mission, which is education, which is crazy to think that I would ever do education. But what I've learned, they've taught me an invaluable lesson. It's not just national security, it's not just adults, it's children. And I've teamed up with a children's book company, Great Books, a conservative book company in Texas, and I think you're going to get a great book from someone standing next to me soon, about instilling values in our youth, about leadership, about the First Amendment, about the Constitution, about national security, in a fun way. But not just the laws of the land and the Constitution, but what's happened in our country. Russiagate, January 6th, things that happen to innocent people like General Flynn when you politicize the justice system. And so this mission is going to continue at every Reawaken Tour that these guys invite me to, hopefully somewhere. And I'll be out there, talking to everyone that wants to talk about whether it's a plot against the king, Russiagate for kids, or what have you. But you just gave me a new idea, sir. We might just write a book about what's happening to our military with the vaccine so our children understand.
Okay, one more question.
I just want to add something quick to that. What I was showing General Flynn is there is a military code, as he refers to, and there's AR 600-20, which actually reminds the officers that they are actually responsible for promoting the safeguard, the morale, the physical well-being, the general welfare. Everybody who's pushing this order in the military, if these things turn out not to be FDA approved, which they're really not, well, they're approved as for experimental use. There's a big hoax going on there that the doctors have been explaining. That means everyone's committing a violation of the Nuremberg Code in 1947. Okay, so all those military officers who are pushing this need to understand they're committing a violation of the Nuremberg Code.
All right, folks, that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys taking the time and what you're doing here. Please report the truth. Let's report the truth. Okay, watch out.
This is Patrick for that for him. I got to get a couple of things too. And here in Lewis.